Kevin walked in, the whole atmosphere changed. Everyone's at their best because he kind of demanded it without saying. Because Kevin went harder than any player we've ever seen at practice. Like his intensity, how he played the game is how he practiced. And he demanded the best out of everyone. And when you rebounded for him or passed him the ball, you wanted to make sure you got the ball before it bounced.
I'm Corey Baldwin.
And I'm Dan Searle. And we're back on a new Off the Beaten Path, a podcast for basketball coaches living in obscurity, working in obscurity, and even those who have made it out of obscurity and then maybe back in with our guest today.
And it's a place where we're going to do some storytelling. We'll learn a little bit about on the court and off the court, connect, have all kind of 6 degrees of separation, and food for thought and food for the belly.
And in today's episode, we follow the long and winding path of Darren Erman. Coach Erman bounced from D3 student assistant to big-time lawyer to NBA grunt workout guy, and is now the head coach of the Maine Red Claws Celtics G-League franchise. Darren, welcome to the show, man. It's great to have you on.
Yeah, great to be on. Thanks, guys. This is a pleasure and an honor to be on your show. And yeah, it's been quite a journey, to say the least.
And that was the quick little nuggets and abbreviated version, but we could start right there. Give us your couple minutes of your career path and passion for the game and how it's gotten to where you are now. And then we can go back through and talk about some of those stops and some of those people you've worked with and coached for.
Yeah, no, I was, like you said, a student coach or manager, coach at Emory. Then after Emory, I went to law school at Northwestern Chicago, was a lawyer for 3 years, paid off all my loans, and I quit. And I had called Coach Hurley once a week, every week for 3 months until he gave me a job or opportunity to work with St. Anthony High School in Jersey City. Coach Hurley being a legendary coach, one of the best coaches of all time at any level. And I was fortunate enough to be with him for 2 years. But along the way, I worked this camp called Seeds of Peace, where they bring in Israelis, Palestinians from the Middle East, and they live together in a bunk, and they do conflict resolutions with mediators and stuff. And I was a counselor there. They bring them in from the Middle East to Maine, and Arn Tellem was on the board of directors, and now he was a super agent at the time. Now he works with the Pistons, but Scalabrini was one of his clients they brought in. There was like an NBA days. They had NBA players like 3 days come in, and I got to know Brian Scalabrini pretty well for like for 15 minutes. We hit it off. He took my number. He called me a week later and asked me to work his camp, and then I just became his workout coach. And when he signed, I was with St. Anthony, and he was with the Nets, and I worked him out for a couple of years, and then he went to the Celtics, and he asked me to come with him. I went to Boston, became a volunteer assistant at D3, Brandeis, and works Brian out, and then Tony Allen, and Delonte West, and Ryan Gomes, and a few other players, and eventually it was like the perfect storm. The Celtics hired me, so I got really, really, really lucky. And then I was with the Celtics for 4 seasons and Golden State for 3, then the Celtics, and then I was lucky enough that Coach Gentry hired me in New Orleans to be his associate head coach for 4 years. So I've been very lucky. Like along this way, you need a lot of help to make it anywhere, especially in this profession where there's so many good qualified candidates. So I've been really lucky and had a lot of help along the way.
Yeah, lucky and help, but you've also, it sounds like you've worked your tail off. You're willing to do stuff like sleeping on air mattresses and not make much money, if any, right, as you work your way through. What is one of those stops? And we'll go back through, Corey, jump in and ask a few, but what is one of those stops that sticks with you on kind of sacrifices you had to make and how that helped you kind of move on to the next tier?
Yeah, I mean, when I was at St. Anthony, my friend from law school let me crash on her floor in her hallway. She was engaged, had a few pets. It was like a small 1-bedroom, and I blew up my aero bed every night. Slept in the hallway, deflated in the morning, packed up in the closet, and went to St. Anthony to go teach. So, I had to get up like at 5:45, take the PATH train, get to St. Anthony. It was like an hour or maybe like a 15-minute door-to-door commute. And, but, living on an aero bed and for basically 4 years, I did it 2 years there and then 2 years in Boston, and not make much money and just try to go meet as many people as possible. be around the game as much as possible, because you never know what situation will lead to your big break. And that's what I tell everyone. Like, you never know when your break's going to come. You just got to be around the game as much as possible.
Right. Thanks for saying that, Darren. Were you looking for the next break, or were you enjoying being around the game, being at those Hurley practices? Are you in the moment, or are you looking for the next thing? Because a lot of
no, definitely in the moment. Coach Hurley's practices were awesome. Like, no, the body language was perfect. No one batted an eyelash when he spoke. Everyone paid attention. He was the ultimate coach, teacher.
You're talking about the players' body language and their reaction, right?
Yeah, the players, like, no one had bad body language. No one, and he was a master of body language. If someone did, he would correct them. Like, he everything mattered. Every attention and detail mattered to Coach Hurley, and he was the best at it. And like, you gotta enjoy the moment, because initially I wanted to be a college coach anyway. So I was loved being part of high school, learning from Coach Hurley. I knew nothing. I was a lawyer who just quit and knew nothing about really coaching, and was learning from one of the best coaches of all time. So I was just enjoying the moment for sure.
There's three things. I'm gonna go real quick on them. But when you decided not to be a lawyer, what was your we've had another guest who kind of had a similar deal, not quite the same but close. What was your family's reaction when you said, "Hey, I'm gonna go coach and live on an air mattress"?
It was pretty positive. Like, I had paid off all my loans. I was fortunate enough to pay off all my law school and undergrad loans, so I was debt free. Like, it's different to go make $25,000 before taxes and have a bunch of debt, but to do that and then be debt free was, you could survive. So they were very supportive, and then it was just a good situation. It wasn't like I was spending that much money. I was just going to work every day, absorbing everything from Coach Hurley and his staff, and then going back to crashing my aero bed.
And the second part is, do you have a chiropractor now after doing 4 years on the air mat?
Oh, yeah. You know what? I can tell you some funny stories. Like, my first aero bed started deflating in the middle of the night, and I had to keep inflating it with this button. And, like, I would wake up at, like, 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and I'd be like, the thing would be flattened out on the floor. And then one time there's like this squirrel. I was exhausted, and the squirrel got into my friend's apartment. And I looked at the squirrel and I said, "You don't bother me and I won't bother you." And I went back to sleep. But yeah, so maybe that's why my body, I feel like I'm 60.
That might do it right there. All right, and I got one more, and this one's actually basketball oriented. When you're at St. Anthony's, I mean, do you still to this day relate back a lot to Coach Hurley now that I know NBA, some different rules and other things, but you still relate back to some of the principles or some non-basketball he taught?
Yeah, I mean, the basketball principles are big, especially Coach Hurley's defensive principles, helping for each other, help the helper, and but really just relating to players, getting them to buy in, paying attention, pay attention to body language, because you can tell when they're absorbing information, when they're not. So you learn a lot of that from Coach Hurley, and the attention to detail. His attention to detail was unbelievable.
Darren, give us a couple specific examples. You mentioned some terminology, help the helper. How did he relate to people, and what is one of those defensive principles that just got hammered in every day? So those are separate questions that tie back to Coach Hurley.
Yeah, Coach Hurley is like one of his greatest gifts was he was very demanding in the standard. It wasn't anyone else's standard. It was his standard, and he brought everyone up to that standard. So, even if we were winning by 30, we beat a really good team. I think they were like 12th in the state by like 20, but he wasn't happy with the way we played, because it wasn't the standard of just winning. It was his standard of how we played and the process of everything, and getting the players to live up to that standard day in and day out at practice and then games. And so that was great. And then, like, defensively, ball pressure, same things a lot of you want to do at any level, ball pressure. And then guarding the ball is not just the person on the ball as much as the people behind them, like, or like in the gaps. That's like what really is guarding the ball, especially at the NBA level. Like, these guys are so good individually at breaking someone off the dribble. They're so skilled, so athletic, that it's hard for anyone to guard the ball. But if they see help to the right or to the left or at the rim, it's going to dissuade him from driving. So really guarding the ball is as much the help defense as a guy on the ball.
And that makes it affects drivers' decisions, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So having that help there, and that ties into NBA life too, right? As you structure your defenses.
Yeah, like with people, you want to take away driving gaps, but you dissuade guys from even wanting to drive by showing your help early.
Okay. Did he ever teach like stunning or faking to go to the ball? Did he teach any of that for the help guys?
Yeah, he did a lot of that, like foot fake. He call it foot fake.
Foot fake.
Yeah.
I like that term. We call it stunting, but I like that
stunning.
Term,
and the NBA is stunning, but he foot fake, and it worked for like so many different situations. Like even on like I say, as simple as a 2-on-1 fast break, you want to foot fake at the ball, but you don't want to commit to the ball, but you don't want to commit to the other the person without the ball either. So you're foot faking and trying to cause some indecision with the guy that has the ball.
That's awesome. That's good stuff.
Also at St. Anthony's, there's the big name now, right? As he's developed quite a reputation and a connection in the NBA with Woj. There was a book that was written, The Miracle of St. Anthony's. Is that right? Did you make a showing in that one, Darren?
Yeah, I made a brief cameo. I mean, Adrian was as thorough then as he is now. He was came to every practice, every game, really captured how great Coach Hurley was or is, and the players and the obstacles everyone had to overcome to make St. Anthony a good school and a basketball powerhouse. But yeah, he was a writer for the Bergen Record at the time, Adrian.
In New Jersey, yes. And that's an example there of great storytelling, but what goes into it is a whole year with the team, with the coaches, with the players, with the families. Yeah. And that's how those relationships get built, right? Does he stay in touch with you? Do you cross paths? Is there a text or a tweet that happens every once in a while now? How does that work?
Yeah, every now and then we stay in touch. Yeah, I mean, he's the best in the business because of the time he puts in. Like I always tell every player I ever work with, player development wise or whatever, it's like anything you want to be good at it. It's not rocket science. If you put a lot of time in, you'll be good. And if you don't put time in, you're not going to get better. And same with Adrian. He put a lot of time into the book and being around. Now he puts a lot of time into his craft with NBA. And that's why he's the best in the business.
Mm-hmm.
That's good stuff.
As you moved on, you mentioned Brandeis as a volunteer assistant there. So you spent some time at Emory in your undergrad years, and then at Brandeis conference in Division III, the UAA. I still look back at my 3 years coaching in that conference. Best conference around for travel, for competition, for level of academics, for the type of student athlete that you're working with. Tell us about the Brandeis days. And then also the connection there with the Celtics.
Yeah, so Brandeis is the UAA, as you said, is really good. And just want to say, my 2 years there, we played Emory 4 times. We're in 4-0. No, just kidding. Now that Emory's great. Coach Zimmerman does a great job. But Brandeis was great, really good. The coach, he gave me a lot of latitude, or I should say leeway to do a lot. Like I did a lot of offensive stuff now then, which is funny because people now pigeonhole me as a defensive coach, but I did a lot of offense in Division III. And then when I was fortunate enough to be the head coach of the G-League this year, to coach the offense and defense, we did a good job. We had a lot of talent. Our GM did a great job, and we were able to finish top 10 in both. But I did a lot of offense there, and he gave me and all the other coaches a lot of opportunity. And we were good. We went to the NCAA tournament my second year. Then the next year they went to the Elite Eight. I think they went to 2 Elite Eights in 3 years. So Brandeis really, but it was fun. Like a lot of player development. He had brought in a really good recruiting class, and we just did skill development all the time. I think you came to one of the games, Brandeis Emory, and we were doing a lot of drive and kick principles. Then I think we were getting good at it. They were all young. They were sophomores at the time, but by their junior and senior year, like they were. I mean, the year after I left, the 2 teams that played in the national title, WashU and Emory, Brandeis being them both in the regular season. So they were a really good, talented team. But it was fun. you can make a lot of mistakes at Division III level. No one's under a microscope of like, oh my gosh, look what he just did there. And you learn a lot, and there's a lot of fun.
So, off the beaten path is what we call our podcast. And you've been at the high school level, the D3 level, the G League level, the NBA level. And just as we go through our conversation, Darren, keep mentioning some of those benefits of each level. Everybody thinks, well, I got to get up to another notch. But you can have a fulfilling basketball life at the D3 level as a coach, as a player. It's a great spot to be, isn't it?
Yeah, oh yeah. And like even to this day, like I watched D3 basketball. Even when I was in New Orleans a couple years ago, I was watching St. Joseph of Maine D3. They run an innovative offense. No pick and rolls, just a lot of drive, kick, and a lot of cutting to initiate their offense. Noah LaRouche and Coach Rob helped put it in, and it's really interesting to watch it this summer too. It's a lot of good concepts as this teaches you how to play without the ball. But so even to this day, D3 basketball is a big part of it, and women's basketball too. I know Army women run it as well. So like you study different. There's a lot of great coaches at many different levels out there, and you study them all because you can learn from every person. And I stole everything I've ever learned, and but it's been good. Like I love Brandeis. Like I said, you could make mistakes. You're not under a microscope. Same thing coaching summer league and the G League. Like it's a little bigger scale, maybe under like whether we're on NBA TV or whatever. So maybe people pay more attention to it, but it's still a good opportunity to make mistakes and learn from them. And that's what like I feel a lot of good, players, rookies, they make mistakes and they get better, and people are patient with them. It got to be the same with coaches. Like young coaches are going to make mistakes. So let them learn. And that's one thing I've been fortunate enough every place I've been able to make mistakes, and people have given me the opportunity to learn from them.
So when you head to the Celtics, the move wasn't a big move as far as location, but how big of a move was it, dealing with D3 athletes, student athletes, to going to pro, the pro mentality and pro athletes?
Yeah, it was like I had done NBA camps along the way. Like there's this camp in Vegas called Gerg's Camp, and I had been working out Scalabrini for like a year. I mean, I was a year removed from being a lawyer, and I went to Coach Gerg's camp, and one day he's like, "Do you mind working out these two individuals too?" And it was Zach Randolph and Jermaine O'Neal.
Wow.
I was like, well, okay. I'm like, well, this is the drill that Scalabrini and I do. If you guys want to do it, let me know. I mean, I was literally a year removed from being a lawyer, and these are just some drills I picked up from Coach Hurley and Scal, and I had developed together. And but they all bought in, and so I had been doing these camps. So one thing you learn is like at any level, guys will listen and do whatever they think will help them be better. So it wasn't like that much different. The speed athleticism was, yeah, for sure. But like working hard, trying to help guys get better, people will listen to whatever you have to say if they think it's going to help them not get embarrassed on the court or give them some type of advantage on the court.
When was your first time with the Celtics where you kind of had to pinch yourself a little bit and go, hold up, I'm coaching this guy, or I'm telling this guy what to do? I mean, what just happened? Did you have that moment or not really?
I mean, when Kevin Garnett walked in the gym, it was a totally different vibe. But I've been lucky. Like I was working with Tony Allen, and so when I worked with Tony, Paul would come around. So I had a relationship with Paul, and I had rebounded for Ray a couple times in the summer. But when Kevin walked in, the whole atmosphere changed. Everyone's at their best because he kind of demanded it without saying. Because Kevin went harder than any player you've ever seen at practice. Like his intensity, how he played the game is how he practiced. And he demanded the best out of everyone. And when you rebounded for him or passing the ball, you wanted to make sure you got the ball before it bounced. You wanted to make sure like your passes were on time, on target. Like you were at your best, like sprinting after every ball. And everyone's at their best. Equipment managers, ball boys, coaches, players. This is kind of how he demanded it without saying. demanded that from everyone without even really saying it. And to be around him, I remember Scalabrine came up to me after the very first practice and said, "You can coach this game for 50 years. You'll never coach another Kevin Garnett."
Wow. That's awesome. I've always heard his energy level is unbelievable, but I also heard he talks nonstop. Did he ever mess with you a little bit or no?
No, I mean, like Kevin and I were really, really close, like especially early. Like I was kind of one of his, 'cause I always rebounded for him anytime, whenever. But no, he's intense. He'll yell. I mean, he'll yell like he's not afraid. But as long as you work hard and keep your mouth shut, he was good. Like and like it's not just everything he said. Almost everything he said was really great and valuable. He was great to be around because he's learned so much from him. Like he studied the game. He knew the game well. Like he paid attention to small details. He'd be like, I see you limp with your right foot, not your left foot. I see cause I had plantar fasciitis. He's like, I notice everything, D. I notice which way this guy wants to go, whether it's Chris Bosh, whatever, all these details you got to pay attention to or you're going to get embarrassed in the court.
Man, that's awesome.
There's that intensity of the best of the best. It takes the time, it takes the effort, and there's some example. Hey, for those watching and listening, Darren, you're about what, 5'8" or so, 5'9"?
Yeah, 5'8". Let's go 5'9". Let's just do that. Why not?
Yeah. There you go.
No one's going to fact check that, right?
Everything gets fact checked these days. We're already Googling. But you mentioned Jermaine O'Neal and then time with Kevin Garnett. You're dealing with 7-footers there. How did you gain their respect from the little lawyer guy to telling big-time pros who see every detail the way to do it?
Yeah, I think those guys, especially the people, the players of the Celtics, they kind of saw how much time the staff put in. I put in, Tibbs, Doc, everyone put in. And so they paid attention to what we had to say. And even me, not having much experience, they saw how much film I watch or how I worked a lot. And then they began to trust kind of what I had to say. It wasn't overnight, but it was a slow process. But I did a lot of reports where I would give it to the players for every game, tendencies of players. So this guy might go right, this guy might go left, this guy likes one dribble pull-up, this guy run him off the three, whatever it might be. This guy has 3-point range, but if you make him put on the ground, he's not as good a shooter. And it'd be 4 bullet points for each player. But as they saw that and they looked at those reports and they went to the games and saw that the information was accurate and they could rely on it, they began to trust what I had to say more. Because, we had a lot of stars throughout my time in the Celtics, from Rasheed Wallace, Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Rondo, Ray Allen, Shaq. We had Sam Cassell. We had a lot of characters, Nate Robinson, Big Baby. So we had stars, Hall of Famers, big characters, big personalities. So it was a really, once I coached with that team or worked with that team, I felt like I could coach and work with any team.
Did you have one of those moments, Darren, and then I'll let Corey ask some more questions, where it didn't work out? And I can go back to coaching at Emory. I remember doing a scouting report. We were going up to Chicago, and in the scouting report, I say, and this guy's not the greatest 3-point shooter. It's okay to give him some space because he was averaging 31% from the line or something like that. And dude hits a 3 in the game, and they stop the game. And they announce, congrats on being the all-time 3-point makes person for the University of Chicago. And Lee Leddy and Satterwhite are like, Thurl, what the heck, man?
Yeah.
Did you get sent to the locker room after
I blew that one, that's for sure. Do you have moments, Darren?
At Brandeis, we played Carnegie, and Carnegie Mellon was top 20. They were really good. They had beat Princeton that year. And, I was like, okay, we got to keep the ball in the paint. They were really good at getting to the paint. And they had this guy, he was 3 for 11 on the season for 3, which by the time we played him, it's over halfway through the season pretty much, or maybe probably right at halfway point because it was early in the conference. And I'm like, look, let's help off of him. Let's clog the paint, keep him out of the paint. This guy hits like 5 threes, maybe 6 threes at halftime. And then like after his last one, because they have 21 points at halftime, so it's 5 or 6 threes. They're all chest bumping him. And I'm like, you know, you got to live with something. Like, you know, that happens. And in the NBA, you know, it happens too a little bit. Like I was with Golden State. We're going to let Josh Smith shoot jumpers. And I was like, you know, from this spot right here, he's 25%. And he hits the very first one. And David Lee's like yelling at me. And I'm like, just trust the game plan. And by the time that the game was over, I think he was 6 for 24, which is right at 25%. But so I felt a little bit vindicated. But yeah, it's sometimes
in
wrong.
In a moment, you question yourself, like, oh, maybe we should get out on him, right?
Yeah, no, it happens. It happens a lot. Like this guy's not a shooter, and all of a sudden he hits 3 threes. It happens a lot. And but one of the big things is to really hammer home. Just because they're a non-shooter doesn't mean we give them dare shots. We still got to go out there and contest. We got to make them feel like we're in their airspace, even if we're not. We know we're going to live with that shot with a late contest, but don't give guy dare shots because any guy can go out there and a dare shot and make a 3. I mean, besides me, maybe you. I don't know about you, what you got left in the tank, but so no dare shots.
Lefty floaters.
What's that?
All I've got is lefty floaters.
Lefty floaters, yeah. So, but, you know, we all make mistakes. We all prepare as much as possible. And then sometimes information, it doesn't work out. Like you watch the film and you see what you see on film, and it's not going to be 100%, but you learn from it, and you make adjustments in the middle of the game, and you take that information, and the next time you play him, you use that. Like, you're always gathering more information to help make a more informed decision. And that's like the one benefit of like studying the game a lot, is like you want to take as much information, whittle it down to a simple form to convey to the players, but you want to take the information, gather it, and try to make use all of it as much as possible, make a informed decision on how you want to prepare against for the opponent, whether it be offense or defense.
That's great advice there. As much info as you can pull together, but then whittle it down and keep it simple, straightforward for the player who's got to be out there and deliver.
Yeah, exactly.
Did working with Doc Rivers as a head coach and Mark Jackson, who were both former point guards, hopefully this is a future point guard right here. Yeah. Was there ever anything they gave you from their playing days? Now, I know they're both great coaches, but from playing days.
You know, it's funny. A lot of coaches, they don't really talk about their playing days. They just have like Doc and Mark. Both of them had really good rapport with the players. They just know how to they've been in the grind for double figure seasons, 10+ seasons, and they just know the player's body. They know what a player goes through. They understand when to try to get something out of them, or when to pull back. And I think a lot of even non-ex players kind of figure that out pretty quickly when you're around the game, because you can see it. Like I remember one time Tibbs told me, well, I was like, man, I'm exhausted. He's like, well, if you're tired, the players are definitely tired. So you just kind of figure it out. Like when you're around the game, so many seasons and 82 games, you can read body language and know when a player's tired, and maybe, hey, this is a shoot. We get some player development in this practice, and not as much 5-on-5. So, but that's kind of really a bit like Ty Lue was really good at it. Ty Lue's pulse of the game is in a rapport with the players and managing players is one of the best I've been around, if not the best, him and Doc, and just understanding all that to managing, because this is a long season, especially if you're going to go far in the playoffs. We went far my first 4 years of the Celtics, 2 finals, and managing and pacing the team is Doc had a great advantage and T. Lue has a great advantage.
You mentioned former players who are coaches versus D3 managers who didn't get on the court. How much more clout does the former player have, or does that all balance out based on hard work and knowledge of the game? A Tibbs and a Rivers, how does that compare, or is it an issue?
No, I don't think it's an issue. I think it's like, I think sometimes someone who played basketball at the highest level has credibility until they lose it. And then someone who didn't play uh, doesn't have credibility until they prove it. But at the end of the day, like people are gonna, if someone who played the game can help like I said earlier, can help someone be good on the court and give them an advantage, or make sure that they're not having a disadvantage and getting embarrassed, they're gonna listen to that person, whether he played in the NBA for 20 years or didn't play at all. It's just whoever they feel like they can trust to help them on the court to give them the best opportunity to be successful.
When you went from East Coast to West Coast, what changes were kind of occurred for you, not only by changing conferences, but changing lifestyles, time zones, all those things that maybe some of us don't even think about when we're watching sports. But what were some of the things that changed for you because you went from Boston to Golden State, correct?
Yeah, it was easier to kind of watch film because you got the games. You know, we played the last game on the West Coast always, so we always had the next opponent scout that night. Whereas if you're in Boston and you play in the Eastern time zone, you might not have the next opponent scout to the next day. So I felt like it was easier to watch film. I thought it was easier to be ready. I liked being on the West Coast as far as being coaching, because we were the last game. So all the other games, we had all that information, all that film, everything already ready for. So my workflow in the morning, in Golden State, I get there like not much more balanced now. Wife, kid, dog, but I get there like at 6:30 and I'd stay till like 10 at night. So I was always watching film and stuff, trying to learn. And but yeah, so I always had it, so I didn't have to really bother the video guys first thing in the morning because I got it the night before.
Who in the for you would you down like you did? Who's someone that you kind of still have rapport with that maybe you don't work with, but yet you still follow up with, whether it's a player or a coach or a scout or a G-League person or whoever?
Yeah, there's tons of people. Like like Tibbs, I'm good friends with. Talk to him. He's one of the best coaches in the NBA. You know, T. Lue, like I said, he's one of the best coaches. Talk to him. Whether it be Scalabrine, there's a bunch of guys, players, Rondo, Draymond Green, all those guys. Like, you like to pick their brain because they see the game differently than you. Like, even during a game, you might ask a player, hey, what do you see out there? Because they're seeing something that you might not see. Rondo is really good at pointing those things out. Draymond was really good. Anthony Davis is really good. Like, you know, this is what's going on. And, you know, so picking their brain, even to this day, like, oh, how should I manage this situation? Because this player's doing this, or, you know, we have 4 games in 7 days. As a player, what would you recommend doing? So I like to pick those guys' brains because they have knowledge. You can learn from everyone, whether it be a player, coach, equipment manager who's been around the game for 30 years. Like, you pick guys' brains and see what they feel like can help the team. Because, I mean, that's ultimately what we're all trying to do, is win as many games as possible and help the team, help the players grow on and off the court.
Do you have one of those specific moments of a Rondo comes off the court and says, we gotta switch this, or we gotta guard the other guy? Or is there a moment there that comes to mind from Pelicans or Celtics or any of those?
Yeah, well, I mean, Rondo probably said to me every game. So I don't know if I know. He was he like saw the game at a high level. Like, I know when I coached against him when I was in Golden State and he was in Boston, we had a side out bounce C, which we never ran. We probably ran it 3 times all year. So this is probably game 60 or 50 at least. And we hadn't run in like at least 15, 20 games, and we called C. He saw the alignment and knew exactly what it was, and was yelling to the team what we were about to do. And LeBron's the same way. When we were in the playoffs in Boston in 2015, we ran a end of game play, and he saw the alignment and knew exactly what we were going to do and called it out to his team. So, like, LeBron, Rondo, Draymond, they all have high basketball IQs. Like Andre Iguodala. I mean, I've been around a lot of really, really fortunately smart players. Marcus Smart's really smart. Like, all these guys are high level intelligence.
Those are good examples there. And as a coach, you've got to be able to take that, right? You're not being challenged. We're all in this together. We share the information and can be a better team. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's like also being open-minded, flexible, all these attributes that make you a successful business person. Like I was reading a book by Robert Iger, and like being open-minded, listening to everyone, taking everyone's ideas. And that's the same thing about being a basketball coach. It doesn't mean you listen to everyone, but you have a good dialogue, open dialogue, where someone can come to you and say, we should do this or try that. And when players have ideas, they're going to take more ownership into it, and maybe sometimes give a little bit more effort. Like they have a suggestion or something. So it's always good to be open-minded and try it. Being flexible and open-minded is some of the biggest keys to managing a successful team in today's NBA or in any level.
In life, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So now you end up in the G League. Does the travel, does it now get a little tougher for you? I would assume the travel isn't quite as lavish as it would be in the NBA. Or is it stuff you don't really worry about that?
You don't even think about it. It's not bad at all. I mean, coming from Brandeis, it's a very similar travel. You might fly out the very first flight in the morning. Like when Brandeis, we play on Friday night game, Saturday, we would fly out very first flight in the morning. Sometimes we do that. Sometimes we always try in the G League, try to find some of the cheaper flights. But like I talked to Taco Falls on our team and said, hey, look, this is a privilege to fly. Like I hardly ever flew in the plane. Like I don't think I flew on a plane until I went home maybe once or twice Thanksgiving at Emory. So it's a privilege to be able to fly on a plane at all, any level, private, commercial, anything. So to have those opportunities to fly, to go to different cities, go to different states, a lot of people don't get those opportunities. So I was talking to Taco, this is a privilege that we get to be able to do this. And he agreed, I literally had been on a plane probably until the NBA, maybe like 10 times in my life. Oh, well, until Brandeis, I should say. Brandeis, we flew a lot, but to NBA, I never really got to fly that much and experience all these places. So it's a privilege.
Only you got to go on one of the Emory road trip weekends. That was a big deal.
Yeah, it was. Well, I kind of got to go because I was looking at Northwestern Law School. So Coach Manuel let me go to the Chicago WashU trip.
Yep.
Yeah, because of I went to visit the Northwestern Law School on that trip. Yeah, it was fun. It was good. I remember it like it was yesterday. Yeah.
So Darren, we jumped to G League. Let's go Pelicans and G League. Those 4 years in New Orleans as associate head coach. You've got the reputation to be a defensive-minded coach there. What was your primary role there on that bench and in player development with Pelicans? And then how did the switch? Why did you say, hey, it's time to be a head coach? Let's see if I can move back with the Celtics.
Yeah, I did a lot of defensive work, defensive game plans with the Pelicans. We had, we were successful a couple of years, and other years like more results, not as successful, but process. We had a good process, I felt, for the most part. But there's always going to improve, and you got to learn. But it was really good. It's great to work with Coach Gentry. He's one of the best coaches, best people out there. Still go to his house. He lives a couple of blocks away from me now. But it was really good to be able to run a defense, be in front of the team. I got to do it at Golden State as well, and a little bit in Boston, being in front of the team with defense. But it was fun. We had a really good team. We had Anthony Davis and Drew Holiday, two of the best players, defensive players, and two best players overall on our team. So it was good. It was a lot of player development. Player development never stops. Like, best advantage you can do is to get your players better. Like, that's the best way to help your organization. So we did a lot of defensive player development. It started with like Klay Thompson, Golden State. We did 45 minutes of defense a day, Monday through Thursday in the summertime.
Defense, is that what you just
defense.
Exactly.
Only defense. We did 45 minutes.
Working on the D. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool. I told Klay, you're always going to be a 40% plus 3-point shooter, and it might vary year to year. It might be 41 one year, 42.5 one year, but you want to be a Hall of Famer, because Klay easily can be. I mean, and he can attest as a rookie, I'm like, you can be a Hall of Famer. Like, you're that good, but we got to get better defensively. And to his credit, he put all the time in. Like, the players putting the time in is what makes them good. And he put 45 minutes in a day, Monday, Thursday in the summer for like 2.5 months. So, I mean, he got a lot better. And now he's one of the best two-way players in the NBA, can really guard multiple positions. And we did some of those things in New Orleans. Anthony, very coachable. He wanted to be great. So he would do a lot of defensive drills, and he's one of the best players. I mean, he was always going to be a great defensive player. But doing those player development drills, putting together a defensive system was really good in New Orleans. And then a lot of GMs you talk to say that, hey, they want, for a head coach, they want head coaching experience. So I didn't really have head coaching experience besides summer league. So to get the opportunity to coach with the Celtics and their G-League team and be the head coach and get that head coaching experience to hopefully get my name out there for NBA GMs.
How much do you deal with the Celtic organization? Do you set in on draft stuff? Do you do meetings with coaching staff
when I'm around, because we're in Maine, it's an hour and 45 minutes away, but Coach Stevens is great at including everyone. Zoom coaches meetings during this pandemic and everything always includes G League coaches, and he's really inclusive, great leader, great person, high character. So it's whenever I'm around, he includes us.
What's an example of that great character, good leader pieces, aside from including as many people as possible from Stevens?
Yeah, I mean, he always tries to give everyone an opportunity, give everyone a meaningful role so they feel part of the organization, whether it be the 2 assistant video guys to the whomever. He makes you feel like you're the most important person in the organization and your role really matters to the success of the Celtics. And he's just like a really genuine person. And like 3 characteristics people look for to be successful in any business, but a coach is hardworking, intelligence, and integrity. And Coach Stevens has all 3. So that's why he's one of the best in the business.
Right. Hey, that's good little quick descriptors right there. Darren, going from assistant coach to head coach, the season got cut short. Hopefully the new season kicks off here. Who knows how it all falls into place. But how tough was that transition for you? What are some things that you had to adjust to from, that we talk about moving that 1 seat over. You don't know how tough it is until you're sitting in it.
Yeah, no, delegating, giving everyone a meaningful role like Coach Stevens does to make them feel part of it. So I was used to doing a lot of defensive drills in New Orleans to now I'm delegating those drills, trying to be hands off to give other people opportunity to, because I learned and we all learn by having opportunity, and to be able to coach in front of a team when I was in Golden State and talk in front of the teams. I really didn't do that in Boston initially, helped me grow. So I was trying to give other guys opportunities. And we had like 7 coaches, and gave them all opportunities to do scouts, to do film in front of the team, to do drills in front of the team. So they all got opportunities to do all those different aspects to help their voice grow. And but me also being the ultimate decision maker, whether what we're going to do defensively, game plan, or offensive game plan, or but managing your staff, managing the players. Like as an assistant coach, it's really easy to develop relationships. Like you're a player development coach, you watch film with them every day individually, and you do drills with them. You have sweat equity on the court, but when you become the head coach, you have less of that because you got to manage your time with like the preparing practice, travel, etc. So making the time to still maintain those relationships. So we had player development only days where part of the mandatory player development was 10-minute individual meetings with me. So we talk about life. We could talk about what they liked about the G League. We watch film, but we did that maybe once a week, or just to try to build those relationships. Because I mean, that's the key to it all, is developing relationships, because then you can coach them hard if they know you care. And the only way they know you care if you develop those relationships and manage them and people like your staff and the players and everything. So it was really, really good. I thought it helped me get better as the year went on, and we had a successful team.
Let me ask you this: with you being in the G League, I would consider it. I'm gonna tie it into myself like he does. I would consider it similar to JUCO, maybe being a JUCO coach, because I would assume your ultimate level or your ultimate goal is to get them to the next level. Plus, you're going to have some guys come and go, correct?
Yeah, I mean, the team is very fluid. Your roster can change at any time, game to game, and it's a great league because you really have to have good, hard, honest conversations with players, and because hey, you might not play that much this game. So and so is being assigned from the Celtics to the G League, and he might take your playing time. But managing that, making sure they know you care, doing a lot of on the court player development to try to help them get out of the G League. Like people don't want to be in JUCO; they want to get out of JUCO. People want to get out of the G League; they want to get to the NBA or overseas to make some good money.
Correct.
So, keeping guys motivated to understand that individual success is tied to team success, and also having tough conversations when they're hey, you might not get 15 shots to this game or whatever it might be, but really all that's tied together. Like, like, look, if you play hard and you play the right way, you have your best chance to get out. So it's not about getting 30 points a game. Mm-hmm. David Nwaba averaged like 14 points and shot 25% from three, but he made it out of the G League. So playing hard and playing the right way matters. And GMs are going to notice that. And before they give anyone money, they're going to watch you. So convincing them, selling that message was important for us.
I know when I hear that, I kind of take it back to my team. I think of, I tell my guys all the time, you might have averaged more in high school. You may have shot more in high school, but that was high school. They want to see you can score less in college, but if you're playing better, it's college action,
Yeah.
So 4 years judging you in a college game now instead of numbers. They're really judging you how well you play. Is that kind of the sell you give, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's a constant sell of like, look, if you win games, people are going to notice.
Correct.
If you don't win games, you're less likely to get noticed. And also your role in the NBA, there's very few people. I mean, I'm sure there's some that go from the G League shooting 15 shots a game to the NBA shooting 15 shots.
Correct.
So make sure you play the right way, because that's what they're going to want to see in the NBA, and like take the right shots. Like also shooting percentage matters. If you're shooting 33% from three versus 38%,
that's huge.
I mean, GMs are going to notice that, and so take the right shots. Don't take shots that, you can make, but you can't make a living off of. Like, you can make the step back contested three from 28 feet like Steph Curry or whatever. Yeah, you're capable of making that, but are you capable of making a living off that shot?
Correct.
And are you going to shoot a high enough percentage to do so? So just make sure we take the right shots. And, I thought our guys really grew in that area. And they did a good job buying in.
That's something we sell a lot, percentages over averages. But one last one. With you doing the G League, I would assume with so much transition come and go, do you have to kind of I don't want to say dumb down, but simplify what you're going to run and what you teach, because you might have a guy with you 2 days and you got to get him to run some stuff or whatever.
Yeah, keep it simple. Mm-hmm. Mirror a lot of what the Celtics do in case someone's assigned from the Celtics. So they might not come to a practice or shoot around, but simplify just and also make it so they don't have to be really out there overthinking. They just go play.
Yeah.
Like it's like your roster's always changing, and you might have to play different ways throughout the season. Like we did, we started with this guy actually from Georgia, Yante Mayton, good player. He was our starting five, and we had guy Kaiser Gates, who's a really good NBA player, probably him and Yante, I think, and then Justin Bibbs is our three, and then Justin got hurt. Kaiser was our four, moved to the three. Yante moved to the four, and then Taco got into the starting lineup. So we played big, we played differently. But luckily, we were able to win games. So it's a really good league to coach, develop as a coach. Like Nick Nurse credits that. Chris Finch is a great coach. He coached in G League. there's so many. Quinn Snyder coaching the G League, Taylor Jenkins coaching the G League, a lot of successful NBA coaches.
Young.
What would you say?
Kevin Young was on our podcast, our first outside guest, who's been over at Philly now, had plenty of D-League, G-League experience.
Yeah, it makes you a good coach because you have to coach a variety of different ways, and you're really flexible. It really prepares you for the NBA or any league because you have to be flexible. I mean, your team's going to change. You might be assigned a guy, another guy might be recalled, just like that. This guy might get called up to a different team or signed by an NBA team, and your roster changes another way. So it's just like it's a really good league, and I really enjoyed it.
Good stuff. Hey, Darren, we love hoops, and you've got stories and connections. We could talk forever. We won't do that to you. You got to get back to a fun and beautiful 10-month-old son there. But we're going to do some quick hitters here to wrap stuff up and then give you a chance to add any final thoughts. But these aren't necessarily fair questions, but see what you can do. If you can pick either or doesn't work. You got to pick one. Is it Ray Allen or is it Klay Thompson?
Oh, man. I'll go with Klay because I worked with him individually from his rookie year on. Ray came in an all-star Hall of Famer.
There you go. Defensive-minded guy. Is it zone or is it man? What are you playing more of?
Man.
I figured that one.
Yeah.
Best defender that you've ever had to scheme for.
Ooh.
Other teams.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, maybe Andre Iguodala, Drew Holiday, when they were the Sixers, both those guys.
Gotcha. Who's the hardest guy to guard as you're setting up your defense and having the help show there? Who's the hardest one to guard that you've had to plan for?
Probably Kobe because he was a killer. I mean, he would come for your heart. You know, when we played him in the finals twice.
And he did just that. Exactly.
Yeah.
How about it? You talk about Garnett before and that mentality of everything you've got and being prepared.
Yeah.
G-League versus Summer League.
G-League. It's like because Summer League is more of like you're not really building a team. You get your team. We're just going to we're going to work on some things for 4 days and play games. G-League, you have to really manage and grow as a coach. You got to manage everyone.
Well said. Well said. Defense or offense, if you have to choose a side?
I'm going to go offense, man. It's going to surprise some people. I like coaching offense.
All right. So on that note, what is, and you're pretty good describing verbally, what's your favorite set or slob blobs? Can you tell us a favorite play?
I like actions that kind of get guys on skates. So a lot of it just depends how people guard. Like if a guy, like teams guard differently, right? Like some people play 2-on-2 strictly in the pick and roll. Mm-hmm. So there's no help. They don't pull in, nothing like that. So you're going to attack pick and roll maybe, or maybe you run more pin downs because the big's down the floor. So now, like, we had a game where the big's down the floor, they're playing 2-on-2 in the pick and roll. So maybe it wasn't as much a pick and roll game as a pin down game. Because now when the guy comes off for a shot, we had a guy, Bryce Brown from Auburn, who went 11 for 11 in that game because the big's down the floor and from three. So, like, it's all kind of what the defense – I mean, the defense can't take away everything. You watch film, you see how they defend, you see how it fits into your offensive schemes, and you figure out how you're going to attack them. If a team's a heavy nail team, you might want to make an early, easy pass to say the guy's at the nail, you swing it to the guy he's guarding, and now he has a good driving gap, or he has a wide open shot. So just kind of going into the game, understanding how you're going to attack. But I do like a lot of cutting, a lot of ball movement, and people all moving together. Because if only two guys are moving, then it's easy to guard. But when five guys are moving, that's hard to guard. And it's going to exhaust you. You want it's going to exhaust the defense.
That's a great way to put it. Everybody moving a lot harder to guard. Okay, last two from me, and then Corey's up with the maybe some Red Claw references. But a mentor, who is somebody that stands out that you've learned from, grown from over the years, Darren?
Yeah, probably Tibbs. I mean, I talked to him a great deal, and when I took over the defense kind of in Golden State, or even like during the lockout, I mean, I would, like I said, I was there from like 6:30 to 10, but if I had a question, I could call him anytime. And I studied the Bulls defense because they were one of the best defensive teams. They might have been number one. They might have been number one defensive team. I don't remember, but they were top 5 for sure. But so I could pick his brain all the time on defense, and that was my role at the time. And all these coaches get labeled different coaches, but all coaches can coach. Because if you're a good defensive coach, you're probably a good offensive coach because it's hard to guard. So you want your team to kind of play like that. So, but I could always pick his brain, and my role at the time was to coach defense. So Tibbs is probably the guy I'm closest to, or picked his brain the most throughout. Probably bothered him the most throughout since 2007.
And it may be the same answer then. So who do you talk to the most in the NBA now? Is it Tibbs? Or is it an assistant coach somewhere else? Is it somebody in the Celtics? Who's your daily text or phone call?
Not too many people, especially right now, trying to be a good dad. But then when you have your own season, it's hard to talk to people outside your organization. So it's really with whoever's within your organization, because you have coaches meetings with every day. So with New Orleans, it was Coach Gentry, Dell Demps, and Chris Finch. We met every day. So those were the guys. And then the Celtics this year is my coaching staff, or Brad or Danny Ainge. So it just depends where you're at and what time of year it is.
Right.
I don't know if I answered your question well. Sorry, but yeah, it's more like that.
It's the reality. It's what you're dealing with right now.
Yeah.
It usually moves up the priority list. All right. Corey, what you got?
I'm a foodie, so I'm always going to ask some food questions.
Yes, sir.
All right. So when you're in New Orleans, where's your favorite place to eat? If you got one place to eat in New Orleans, where are you going?
Oh, man, I have to say this. Because he would kill me if I didn't. Desi Vegas. He has 2 restaurants I go to, Mr. John's or Desi Vega, and they're high-level steak places. They're great.
Nice.
He's a character. This guy's the best. I mean, everyone loves Desi. He'll sit down at your table, tell you stories how he pitched college at Tulane, pitched against Deion Sanders, walked him. Deion stole second and third, and then scored later.
Good stuff right there. Do you have anywhere where you get oysters in New Orleans?
I'm not an oyster guy, man. I worked at Arby's for 3.5 years. I'm more of a meat and potato guy.
I like it. So Arby's. All right. So what's the worst job you've had? You took me right into that. I was going to ask that. And
Arby's is a great job. I everything I needed to learn in life, I learned at Arby's. I could write a book about it. But the worst thing was I worked at Arby's one time. It must have been like 3 to 11 shift, 3 and then at night, and then afterwards from 11:30 to 3:30, I had to go clean restaurants. So I went from Arby's to cleaning restaurants from 11:30 to 3:30 in the morning. It was like cleaning the fryer, the toilets, vacuuming, the tables, everything. And it's just like by the time you're done at 3:30, you're pitch black. Like I had dirt all over me. Had to go home, shower. Then I had to go wake up. Like at 7:30 for I was taking college classes that summer at the University of Louisville. Go to class, go back to Arby's, go clean that restaurant. Maybe I woke up at 8, but I think my class is like at 9 or 9:30. But it was
that's rough.
That night shift was hard. Arby's was great though. I mean, but that night shift cleaning that restaurant was not. But it was like $7 an hour cash. So back then you're like, man, $7 an hour cash, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, let's go. I like it. What's your favorite city that you've lived in? Because you've lived in a lot of major cities, but also some off the beaten path ones. So what's your favorite?
Louisville, Kentucky. No, I mean, I love Louisville because that's where you're from. Everyone loves their hometown the best, right? But I'd say New York City. I was making no money, like 18, 20, like after taxes, like around 18,000. But it's just a city that's vibrant. There's a vibrance there. There's energy there. Something's always going on. And although I lived on the Zero bed, it was just a great, great place to live.
All right. And what's the playing in all these different, coaching in all these different leagues that you've been in and levels? What's the worst gym you've played in? I usually ask this one every week because I like to hear.
Worst gym.
Or
You know what's
craziest
funny?
gym.
People ask me the worst gym, best gym. I don't even notice. I really don't. I don't like people be like, I remember Ray Allen once was like, Indiana's a great place to play. The Pacers, great arena and everything. I was like, I don't even notice. I just go there. It's 94 by 50. You know, you go coach. You don't worry about the gym. You just kind of go play. I don't know if maybe I've been lucky. I've never really played in a bad gym. Yeah. I mean, it's like
blinders. I like it.
Yeah. Like it's, you got a ball, you got a court, go play.
All right. I'm going to ask this one. Here's a pretty, I think kind of follows up to that, but who's the best coach that maybe you've coached against or coached with that people wouldn't know? So not an NBA guy, maybe somebody in your
Coach Searle know this, Mark Edwards.
Yes. That was one of the first ones that I put on my list, Corey, of top 3 coaches that you've coached against. Mark Edwards at Wash U. 100%.
Yeah.
Really?
You could not beat him, man. I was at Brandeis. We had lost, I think, 30 straight times. That's like, 30 straight times, like 16-year period. And, man, we were about to play him, and we spent hours, like midnight every night going into that game, getting ready to play him. And we finally won in like double overtime or triple. It was unbelievable. But, he was good.
That was a good night, I bet.
He ran a really good offense. He was good.
He's also a great guy. Just a wonderful human being. That's what's so great there with that balance of both. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and speaking like, how we were talking about Division III, the one thing about learning, like I remember we played him one time at Brandeis, and he said, like, look, my freshmen and sophomore are better than my juniors and seniors right now. But when we go to the tournament, well, however far our juniors, seniors take us, that's how far we'll go because they deserve that. They've been part of the program for 4 years. Now, you're not doing that at the Division I level. You're not doing that at NBA. You're not doing the G League. But in Division III, whether you're not really making money for this, you're not money making or whatever, you can, like I said, you can not be judged as much. You can experiment. You can do whatever, and you're not under a microscope. You can do that. You can give your juniors and seniors a chance who have been loyal to the program.
For your guns more.
And they lost in the first round. And then the next year they went to the Final Four, and they won back-to-back titles or something like that with those freshmen and sophomores. So he knew they were better. He knew they could probably take him farther, but he also wanted to give his juniors and seniors a chance to lead the program. So he is a really good guy and really cared about his players.
How about that? That's a great spot. That's a great human side of it all to remember and to finish up on. Some people are rolling their eyes. What do you mean? You could have won and you didn't. But it goes a lot farther than that. Darren, so like I said before, we could keep talking and talking. Any final thoughts from you? Any shout outs that you want to give to people that you're living with or anybody else out there? Wrap it up for us.
No, I just feel honored and appreciate you guys including me in this. This has been great. And I feel lucky and honored to be part of it. So thank you.
You got it. Thank you. Thank you. As we always do our little plugs here as our audience grows on Off the Beaten Path, to make sure to follow along on social media, the Instagram Off Beaten Path Podcast or Twitter Off Beaten Path with a little underscore. But for everybody who's out there, Darren, thank you for being on. Everybody watching and listening, thank you for being a part of our OBP. Corey?
All right. And we'll close it out. We're a show for those who want to coach, those who used to coach, those who are currently coaching, coaches, and those who are inspired to coach.
Thanks, guys.